Hi there, Jesse here with eTrailer. Do you have a Wolfpack fifth wheel, but you don't have auto leveling jacks? Don't worry, Lippert has you covered. Today we'll be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install the Lippert Ground Control 3.0 on our 2022 Forest River Cherokee Wolfpack. This kit is for rigs that will have 20 feet or more from the front landing pad jack to the center of the rear jack. And also your rig will have to have factory prep already. So if your camper doesn't meet those requirements, we do have other kits available here at eTrailer. The way to tell if your rig has factory prep already is you'll notice there will already be a welded-on bracket here with multiple holes. And that's where these leveling jacks mount to. So if you have those, you'll also have a wire harness coming through the frame here with two plugs on the end. So as long as you have those two things, you'll see them in 4 different spots. That means your rig is factory prepped. If you've ever experienced a camper that's not level, not only is it uncomfortable and also kind of awkward to walk around in, but it's also going to cause some unneeded stress on your refrigerator and your air conditioning units. So a kit like this is really going to help you out, keep that rig nice and level. And also, this kit is fully automatic, so you don't have to worry about doing any kind of manual labor and getting a bubble level out and getting it all set up. It's just a matter of hitting a button with this Lippert kit, and it will level itself. Here's a closer look at our control panel. It's a backlit LCD screen, so super easy to see even in the dark. And one thing I recommend is before you take this out and show up at your campsite, I would just get familiar with the menus. There is a lot of manual control that you can take with this, as well as those automatic features that are really nice to have. I would just scroll through the menu, kind of mess with it, see what buttons control what, and just get familiar with it before you're out there camping. So we'll just run through the process real quick. Say you just arrived at your campsite. If your truck would still be hooked up, you'd just open up your storage panel here. First step into the leveling process will be to manually lower your front landing pad jacks. Then once those are lowered, you'll be able to unhitch from your truck, pull your truck a safe distance away, and then it's just a matter of hitting auto level, and then the system will go through its leveling process, starting with the landing pad jacks, then with the rear ones, and it's just going to go through a process and get you dead set and level. And really it doesn't get much easier as far as arriving at the campsite and getting leveled. And as far as installation goes, with this factory prep, it's really a simple process. It's just a matter of bolting our jacks into place, plugging in some wires, and then mounting a box and running everything to the battery. If it's not something that you're looking to do yourself, maybe you don't have the time, the space, or the tools to do so, feel free to check out our dealer locator. However, if you are looking to get this system set up yourself, then follow along our video and I'll show you how I set up ours. Our first step of our installation will be to find where we're going to mount our jacks. In the instructions, it kind of explains how to figure out the correct measurement. It's just going to say to run a string from the lowest point of either the front or the back, depending on which jack you're installing at the time, to where the tire meets the ground, and where you want your foot to end up after mounting the jack is about equal to that. It also gives the option to get a minimum clearance of 7 inches if you don't have a string or something like that to get the actual departure angle measured. So we have 3 of our jacks set up already, so we already have our measurements. Measured out. So we're just going to install this in the same position that we have those. Once you know where you're going to line up with the holes, we'll just lift our jack into place. You could also slide a 2x4 or something under it to help support it. We'll just lift it into place. Slide one of our bolts through the top and another one on the bottom. And then I'll get some of the nuts started on the back, and that will kind of hold it in place so I don't have to hold it while installing the rest. The instructions don't really specify where to put all of your bolts. It just says put 3 on each side. So I just wanted to make sure I had one on the bottom, one on the top, and one somewhere in the middle. I kind of think there's going to be more stress towards the bottom of this bracket, so I just put it right there. And then on the front side where our motor is, you'll see we don't have the ability to put any on the top, so what I'll do is just put one as far up as I can, just because that's the only real option we have. So I have all these installed. I'll get this last nut on, and then I'll come back through with a 19mm socket and tighten them down. So when you're tightening them down, if you find that the nut is spinning on the backside, just bring a 19mm wrench around, and then I'll help you be able to tighten the bolt down. And then on this top one, I'm not able to fit this socket in, so I'll have to go on the inside or on the back side and tighten it down from there. Now we'll need to bring a torque wrench behind the back here. I prefer to torque from the nut side as opposed to the bolt side, but we will get these torqued down to the specification listed in the instructions. If you don't have your own torque wrench, we do have some available here at eTrailer, or you could always rent one from your local auto parts store. So I'll just go through all 6 bolts and make sure I get them torqued down. For this front upper bolt, we will have to torque it from the bolt side on the outside, which is not really that big of a deal. The frame's just blocking us from getting to the nut. Now we'll just pull our factory wiring out from inside the frame and cut the zip tie off. And then take our wiring for our jack, I'm gonna wrap it around here, and then plug our plugs in. Of course, the triangle plug goes into our triangle. Push that until it clicks, and our rectangle one goes into this one. Now I'll just, later on, I'll take these and zip tie them up just so they're not dangling down and you don't have any risk of getting them unplugged. Once we have all 4 of our jacks installed, we'll move on to getting our leveling sensor installed. So just one thing to take note is it does need to be installed in a certain orientation. They want it upright with the front facing the front and of course the rear facing the rear. And it comes with this bracket here. So what I'll do is just to mock it up and kind of get an idea of where I need to drill additional holes in here. I'm just going to self-tap it, just hand tight for now. And then we'll get under our trailer and I'll show you where we plan on mounting this. Here's our wiring harness for the level system. It was tucked up here, I just had to pull it out, and we have quite a bit of slack on this, so I think the best place to install it will be up on this I-beam. And just make sure to double check before you go drilling holes that you'll be able to reach the wires, and we have plenty of room here. So what I'll do is just mock it up. We just need to make sure that we're in the as close to center as possible, and also either in line with our rear jack or behind it. We're well behind it in this position. I'm pretty sure this is where they planned on mounting it from the factory. So just kind of mock it up. Actually, it needs to be this way. Mock it up, and then I will use a punch, or you could use a marker, something like that, just to mark 2 good locations to drill some holes so that we can run some self-tappers through this frame and get this thing held on nice and sturdy. I'll just take a large drill bit, big enough for our self-tappers to run through pretty easily. I'll drill these holes out, and once these are drilled out, we'll take this plate back under the vehicle, or under the trailer, and we'll mark the holes on the frame, and we're just going to drill some pilot holes there. Now once again, we're mocking it up, and I will punch through those holes we just drilled. Now I'll bring a slightly smaller than this diameter drill bit and drill some pilot holes out, and then we'll run those self-tibers through. There's some pretty tight tolerances to drill those holes through the frame there, so it helps to have a right angle drill like this. And then I had to use some shorter screws than I would have liked, but as long as there's still threads showing, it's going to hold just fine. So at this point we can get our level sensor mounted up. We just need to plug it into our harness. We're inside our front storage compartment now, and I just wanted to find where our wiring harnesses are located. So I had to remove this panel. There's just 3 Phillips screws. If you back those out, you can set that panel aside. And back here is a big bundle of our wires, so I'll just have to bring in something to cut these zip ties off with and sort those out. As you can see, they're all labeled with what sensors or what jacks they correspond with, so that's really nice. Now that I know that those wires are there, I can move on to finding a mounting place for our control panel. So our control panel just needs to be mounted on the ceiling with this arrow facing towards the front. So another thing is it needs to be as far back as possible, or at least as far forward as possible, and in the most forward storage compartment, but also centered side to side. So what I did was I just found center, lined up our control panel, and then I marked out the holes that I'll need to drill. So I'll drill 4 pilot holes here, and then use the included wood panel screws to get this mounted up. Now we can start plugging everything in. This 3-wire plug here, this is our level sensor. It's actually going to plug in right here. We'll just push that in until you hear it click. And that plug right next to it, that's for our control panel. That's going to come included in your kit. Just plug that in, and from there it's just a matter of matching up your labels with their position on here. So this is LM, which will be left mid. So I'll get that plugged in, and then I'll just go down the line and keep matching them up. In our front side compartment, we will need to access our front jacks. And you can see they're already plugged into the factory wiring harness, so I'll just unplug that. And what we'll do is run this end of our wiring harness, and once again that's labeled left front. We'll run it through that hole back there, and once I have it ran through, these just plug in the same as all of our other jacks with the triangle and the rectangular fitting. And then we'll repeat that process with the other side front jack. We're back here in our rear storage compartment, the one that I was laying down in earlier. That there is the back of our factory control panel, which we're not going to use anymore. So what I'll do now is pull all the wires off that and kind of get those out of the way. I'll still keep them available in case they might want to go back to that old control panel for any reason, but I just want to get them out of my way so I can keep all of the wires that we're actually using organized, so I'll do that now. Here's our factory control panel. We'll have to remove that. There's 4 Phillips screws holding that in. So I have everything on the back unplugged. I'll just remove those screws and it'll pull right out. So we figured out that our new control panel actually fits perfectly into the hole that was cut out for the old one. However, our neighbor actually wants the control panel closer to the outside just so he can see his kingpin while he's setting everything up. So what I'll do is, there's only 2 more Phillips screws holding this panel in. I'm going to remove those and then just rotate this panel here. And that's going to put that control panel right about here, which I think will be a perfect spot for the neighbor to be able to watch everything that's going on while he's lowering those jacks. I removed the panel and then I figured out that the screw holes didn't quite match up, so I just put our plate in and drilled some holes for our 4 screws and put the screws in. Then I had to drill some additional holes at an angle so I could attach this. It's nice and sturdy now. So all that's left on our control panel is to plug it in. So we'll just take our plug that I fed through the hole in the back, plug into there until it clicks. And then it should snap into place. I think the easiest way is to kind of get the bottom started first and push it down. And just make sure all 4 corners kind of snap into place. We are back inside of our front storage compartment here. We'll take our power wire, which is going to have 2 ring terminals on one side and then 2 bare wire ends on the other side. I've already crimped on a couple butt connectors to our black and red wire coming off of our control panel. So all we'll have to do is take the other end, or take this end, get these all connected in. Once both wires are connected, there's a hole over there that we will throw our wires down, and that'll take us straight to our battery. So slide your wire in and crimp it. Then do that with your red wire. Just cut some tape, peeled back our loom because we will need to tie this into a 50 amp circuit breaker, which is not included, but it is something that they recommend just to keep everything safe. So what I'll do, we have plenty of extra wire, so we don't have to worry about adding anything on. So I'm just going to eyeball from our circuit breaker here to the positive post on the battery, and then I'll cut our wire there, strip it back, add a ring terminal on the one side, a larger ring terminal so I can fit it over the battery post there, and connect it there. And then from this end, I'll just connect that to the other end of the circuit breaker. For our black wire, that's our ground. So we could run it to the battery, but I'm just going to tie it into this factory ground here. So it's a 3/8 self-tapper holding that in. I'll just remove that, slide our ring terminal on, and tighten it down. Once we have all of our connections nice and secure, we can move over to the touchpad and start testing everything out. While we were testing our system, we did come across an error message. Not sure if everybody gets the same error message the first time, but we did end up having to slide some jack stands under the front because the way to erase that error message, you have to retract all 6 of your jacks. So if you come across the same issue, you could hook up to your truck or slide jack stands under it, retract all of them, and then once we did that, we just clicked on the auto level button and everything worked as it should. So that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Lippert Ground Control 3.0 on our 2022 Forest River Cherokee Wolfpack.